got all the money under the sun to pay super qualified teachers, and you turn the school districts into what they should have been, which is a place where you can go and get an education versus a holding cell for future criminals. We've got a serious problem here, but there is a serious solution, and we're on the cusp of the solution. It's right there. All somebody has to do is look at the evidence and say, okay, we'll study this. We hear you. We see it. The evidence is irrefutable. And the answer is repeal the real estate tax in favor of the uniform states sales tax. By the way, interesting thing about the uniform state sales tax, do you realize that the infrastructure to do this exists this very minute? You're not changing anything on the infrastructure. You're simply saying for the next, in the case of Texas, doesn't work in Montana. Montana can get away with about 10% right now today. In the case of Texas, because we couldn't quantify the outstanding 313 agreements, we couldn't quantify the off-balance sheet agreements, we couldn't quantify the energy agreements put in place by the school districts. We said, let's not focus on that. Let's just look at what it is that we can quantify. So we looked at that, and then we said, okay, we know these other instruments are out there. Let's shoot high. So we looked at it, and the sales tax came in at about 15.6%. Right now, today, the state of Texas can do this effective immediately if they had the common sense, and if the SEC walked into the schools and said, give us the outstanding bonds and the outstanding compound cumulative interest on those bonds. That's the job of the SEC. I don't have subpoena power. Point is, the state of Texas, after 15 years, 3 years, so you have 15%, that's where it comes out of the chute, uniform state sales tax. After 3 years, and this whole problem is stabilized, that goes down to give or take about 11%. The truth is, based on the numbers we've seen, we could do this today at 11.75% and still make this work instantly. They don't want to hear it because they
Why not? Why do you think there's so much resistance? If there's such a simple solution on the table right now, why do you think that there's so much resistance? Because people are afraid of being blamed and going to jail? Do you think it just comes down to that maybe?
More than likely, that certainly plays. I put that at about the 70% level. I put the other 30%, well, some of these people, well, we didn't know, or, by the way, it was complete nonsense. There's been over 80 articles written. Anybody that says that they don't know about this in terms of a politician, they're lying. So I would say, yeah, but a trade-off can be done, right? So if the SEC steps in or the DOJ and says, okay, fine, you don't go to jail, but you're turning these documents over to help the SEC quantify what's going on here. You must realize that 5.1 trillion of bonds, that's why the SEC exists, is to stop fraud in the marketplace. By the way, this isn't a state issue. This is a federal issue. When you sell bonds, you're selling bonds into the federal market. You think you're worried about going to jail at the state level? They'll lock you up for lifetime when the truth is known. But a deal can be cut. That's the job of the DOJ and the FBI and the SEC. A deal can be had. Fine, you don't go to jail, but we're going to fix this.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
A lot of people would have to be let off the hook in order for this to really come to fruition, because that would be the only way that people would be willing to, essentially use this plan that you have and move forward with this.
As far as I can see, there is no alternative. If there was, I would have figured it out. We've got all the evidence. It's right there for every single person in the United States to go look at. We've hidden nothing. We've actually shoved it down the throat of the FBI on multiple times. We're pushing it out there on purpose. We want them to see this is what's happening. You cannot ignore this. Why? Because you're going to break the back of mom and pop. The only thing that separates 42 million people from bankruptcy is $9,000, of which $7,000 is real estate tax. This isn't an option. This isn't something, well, we can kick this can down the road. All you're doing by kicking the can down the road is allowing the interest, the compound cumulative effect of the interest, to fester. You're not adding anything to society. Well, by definition, what is that exactly? It's called socialism. This is the danger. You either fix this or socialism continues to fester until it turns into communism. until we end up in the War of 1776. I want to take it up just one more step on a federal level. So you've put this debt on the population. You've made it so complex, which by the way is a violation of federal law, but you've made it so complex that the average person can't follow it for the sole purpose of stealing their money. Then you slap on more debt, be it federal and or local at the state, by virtue of increasing more school district bonds. If your intent, which I would make that argument in court, it was your intent to bring down the system. If that statement is held true in a court, do you understand that is the definition of treason, the real deal? Do we want to go there? Not necessarily. The point is, when you look at the math of the bankruptcy of the United States of America by virtue of 37.8% of its population, and choosing to ignore the pink elephant of debt dancing in the room, when you choose to do that, no matter what, you're violating Chapter 42 U.S. Code 1986, knowledge of a crime and power to prevent. That's the minimum. The maximum side of it, I would make the argument full-blown treason. This isn't an option. This isn't a game. We're out of time. The rule of 72 is playing out right in front of us right now. And just to make the point one more time, because it's important, an amortization schedule, you can download it offline. Go and find out how much school district bond debt. Now, they probably won't answer the question, but at least try. Go to your school district. How much bond debt do you owe? How much interest on that bonds do you owe today? Take that number, divide it by the amount of houses in your neighborhood, stick that number, let's call it 180,000. Or in the case of Harris County, so Harris County is pretty big. Right now, it's about 73,000 per house. Take that number, put it in an amortization schedule over 25 years at 6.25%. How exactly are you, an average income earner, going to pay that debt that you didn't even know existed? How are you going to pay that off?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the answer for most people is they're not going to be able to, unfortunately, and that's why something needs to be done ASAP, unfortunately.
Debt holiday, debt jubilee. This can be fixed, but it takes people wanting to talk about it.